Hi everyone, I'm Hextasy, and for today, I wanted to do a Halloween-themed hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Sword. So we'll only be using Pokemon that can be linked to movie monsters in some way. Like we could link anything vaguely bat-shaped to vampires. Here's a list of the monsters I've come up with, and there's a couple things to note here, like the scariest thing being my handwriting. There's an asterisk by Frankenstein, and we'll talk about that later. And you can also see both vampires and Nosferatu is on the list, because I thought it would be more fun that way. For our starter, nothing really screams movie monster, unless you count the killer rabbit, which I absolutely should have, but instead, we look at what happens when they evolve. They all become the most horrific and infuriating of all movie monsters, teenagers. Because they're all viable, we'll take my favorite of the three, Scorbunny. We have our first battle with Hop, which we easily win, and head down Route 1 where we have our first new monster, a Blip Bug. Their evolution is based on UFOs, making them a great fit for the alien slot. Or they would be if we didn't kill them with a crit. So we head into the next town, meet Sonia, who is determined to give me carpal tunnel with how much dialogue she sends our way over the course of the game. But after she shuts her mouth, we can hit up Route 2 where we find a new Blip Bug. This one we're able to catch and name Alien, and yes, I am getting very creative with these names. They quickly evolve into a Dottler, and now we have our next Hop fight. We set up a Reflect before taking out Wooloo so his Rookidee's peck doesn't do much damage, and we easily win the fight. We gain access to the wild area after Sonia talks our ear off, and we need to start thinking about what we can catch. We find this evil and intimidating horse, but it doesn't match anything on our list, so we move on to the Dappled Grove and end up catching a Seedot named Jason. At face value, there is nothing really spooky about them, but after we get our drip, we can evolve them into our masked killer. Yeah, he's got a mask on, so that counts. Afterwards, there's another Hop battle, but Alien wins in the exact same way, getting us enough experience to evolve teenagers into the embodiment of angst, Raboot. We get access to Route 3, where we have to suffer through another one of Sonia's walls of dialogue before we can enter Galar Mine 1 to catch Mavis the Woobat, filling our vampire slot. And I hate to say it, but I could not find anywhere in the script to fit in a "Haha, Jonathan, you are banging my daughter" joke. So I'm sorry for failing you guys there. Anyways, going further into the mine is our first fight with Bede, but because we have a Dark-type Pokemon with a setup move, it's an automatic win. We head outside the mine to Route 4, and hold on a minute. That's a Pumpkaboo, the embodiment of Halloween. We are adding Halloween itself to the list and catching Pumpkaboo to immediately cross it off that list. We immediately evolve them off screen through a trade, and we make it to Turf Field where a Yamper approaches us, which means we'll have to sit through another wall of Sonia's dialogue. Thanks for the revives, those will be so useful for us. Anyways, we're able to get a Leaf Stone and evolve Jason into a Shiftry, who is able to make the first gym leader a walk in the park. We can set up a couple of growths against Gossifleur. When his Dynamax Eldegoss comes in, we destroy them with a couple air cutters. Winning here lets us go to Route 5, where we catch Ghost the Drifloon, crossing off the ghost spot on our list. And we have another Hop fight where nothing interesting happens. But we make it to Holbury, where we find our next encounter. We start fishing in the city, looking for our sea monster, and eventually we find them, a Chinchou. Chinchou and its evolutions are based off of angler fishes, something I always thought was just a tiny fish with big teeth that could fit in the palm of your hand or something. And while that's true for most, I found out that some can grow to be up to 4 feet long, And while double checking to make sure I don't look like a dingus spreading misinformation, I saw mentions of some species growing to be longer than I am tall, which is absolutely horrifying. Roanoke Gaming is right to be terrified, and for that reason, we're putting Angler in our sea monster spot. We also have our gym battle with Nessa here, but once again, we have a shift tree, so it's a free win. Our reward for winning, another Sonya scene. And after that, another bead fight that gets trivialized by Jason the shift tree. We're then able to catch a good number of Pokemon. Starting here at Galar Mine number 2, Nosferatu the Noibat for the Nosferatu spot. At the Motostoke outskirts, we find Witch the Hatena for the Witch spot. The Rolling Fields has Spider the Joltik for the Spider spot. And in the Motostoke gym, we'll catch a Litwick named Geist for the Doll spot, which I really meant more as a possessed object spot. Rewinding the clock to just after we catch the Joltik, we evolve Mavis into a Swoobat and have our first Marnie fight. Alien can take out her Krogunk with a Confusion, and Scraggy comes in. So we swap to Teenagers on a Headbutt, then to Halloween on another Headbutt which we're immune to. We can then Moonblast our way through the rest of her team, and that brings us back to the present where we evolve Angler into a Lantern, and it's time to take on the third gym leader. Kabu starts with a Ninetales who could burn Angler, so we actually start with Mavis, but it turns out Mavis is hot garbage. Their Psychic Fangs does decent damage, but then they get burned, cutting their attack. We use Air Cutter instead, and it does like 2 damage. They miss their next Air Cutter, and the following one brings Ninetales down to about a quarter HP. Mavis then dies. They might have had a chance to win if their Citrus Berry activated, but it turns out they had the Klutz ability and couldn't use held items. So we bring in Teenagers, and after being hit by a quick attack, we land a double kick that leaves them with hardly any HP. We're hit by one more quick attack before taking Ninetales out with one of our own, and Arcanine comes in next. Their Intimidate ability drops our attack so we won't be doing too much damage. Instead, we spam Growl to drop Arcanine's attack as much as possible, before we're brought to 2 HP, and we swap out to Halloween on a Bite, who only loses 10 HP despite it being super effective. Halloween gets burned by a Will-O-Wisp, and they land a Leech Seed on Arcanine. We then land a Confuse Ray, and Arcanine proceeds to only attack themselves a single time in the 4 turns that they're confused. We swap out to Jason as Arcanine's HP gets low. I have to fight the urge to use Rollout, because as funny as it would be, Gigantamax Centiskorch would probably survive the second rollout and just kill Jason with the Max Flutterby. So instead we use a Throat Chop to finish off Arcanine. His Ace Centiskorch comes in, and we swap to Geist as they Gigantamax and use a Max Flutterby, which doesn't do too much damage. We switch to Teenagers, sacrificing them to another Max Flutterby, and we bring Angler in. We outspeed and try to use Thunder Wave, but it misses and we get hit by a Max Flutterby, taking out half their HP. Bubble Beam takes out a third of theirs before they use Coil to boost their attack, defense, and accuracy, and a strong bug move could kill Angler, so we swap out to Geist, who survives the incoming bug bite, but it steals their Citrus Berry, healing them. They coil again, and we land a Confuse Ray. We swap to Jason as Centiskorch hits themselves in confusion, and we do what we probably should have from the very start and use Rollout. The first one hits, Centiskorch hits themselves in confusion, Rollout hits again, damage ramping up and leaving Centiskorch on the brink of death, but Centiskorch then breaks through confusion to kill Jason with a Flame Wheel. But they're weak enough for Angler to come in and finish them with a Bubble Beam to win the fight after 3 deaths. The level cap jumps up quite a bit here, and we evolve Alien into an Orbeetle. On the way to the next town, we fill out our Clown spot when we find a max raid with a Mr. Mime, who we catch and name after the scariest clown in movie history, Jojo the Clownzilla from Killer Clowns in Outer Space. We also meet the digging duo and dig up some fossil parts that we'll need soon. But first, we need to enter this building everyone's telling us to go to, and oh no, not Sonia. Moving on to the next route, we can put those fossil pieces to good use and mash them together to make Frankenstein the Dracozolt for our Frankenstein with an asterisk spot. To address the asterisk, I know Frankenstein is the scientist and not the monster, but Frankenstein's monster is past the character limit, so we're just rolling with Frankenstein. We evolve Ghost into a Driftblim just before our next Hop battle, who's as easy as ever. Cramorant and Silicobra go down to Angler, and his Thwacky and Toxel are beaten by Alien. We follow this up by evolving Witch into a Hetrem, and it's time to take on the 4th gym leader, Bee. She starts with a Hitmontop, and we drop their attack into nothingness by spamming Play Nice with Witch before switching to Ghost to burn them with Will-O-Wisp. We then swap to Jojo, who maxes out their special attack with Nasty Plots while Hitmontop deals negligible damage, and we then annihilate Bee's team with ease. Our third bead fight is up next, and it's just as easy as always. Alien sweeps his team with a few bug buzzes, and afterwards we get another yap session with Sona, and we can head into the Glimwood Tangle, which is filled to the brim with creepy things like ghosts, poltergeists, cotton candy, and the Pokemon who will be filling our boogeyman spot, Goblin the Morgrem. In the Balinlea gym is our next encounter. We can talk to the girl in the Eevee costume, and can trade to her a Galarian Yamask that we're going to pretend I caught in a max raid at the Dusty Bowl for a regular Yamask. Masky the Yamask is then evolved into a Cofagrigus, our mummy Pokemon. We also evolve Spider into a Galvantula, and it's time to take on the 5th gym leader, Opal. She starts with a Galarian Weezing, while we start with Jojo. We land a Psybeam that confuses them, and they hurt themselves, allowing us to take them down with a second one. Opal doubles our speed, and Mawile comes in next. We forget they know Crunch and use Nasty Plot to double our special attack, but we go unpunished since Mawile uses Iron Defense. We hit them below half HP with a Psybeam before they take us below half the Crunch, and our Citrus Berry heals us up a bit. Opal decides to double our defenses right after, and another Psybeam takes out Mawile. Togekiss comes in and survives our first Icy Wind, then lands an Ancient Power to bring us back below half HP. And we finish them off with a Psybeam. All that's left is Opal's Gigantamax Alcremie, who nearly takes out Jojo with a G-Max Finale. We make fun of Opal for being elderly, then swap out to Masky, then Angler, both taking big damage from G-Max Finale. Alcremie shrinks back down, and we swap out to Spider to finish the fight, but they get confused by a Sweet Kiss, so we swap to Halloween, who lands a Leech Seed before throwing out some Sludge Bombs to win the fight. We begin heading to the next route, and Sonia materializes out of thin air for the sole purpose of pissing me off, and then we have another battle with Hop. He starts with the Trevenant that gets bodied by a couple Shadow Balls from Halloween, and Heatmore is up next. We switch to Angler on a Fire Lash, and it doesn't do much damage, but it does drop our defense. Not that it matters since a single Scald knocks Heatmore right out of the game. Rillaboom comes in next, and we swap to Alien on a Drum Beating. They then have to tank a super effective knockoff that nearly kills Alien, before they can land a Bug Buzz for the KO. Voltund comes in, so we swap to Frankenstein on a Crunch, and they have to survive a second before landing a high horsepower for the KO, and all Hop has left is Snorlax. We switch to Masky to burn them, and then send out Halloween to seed them. Snorlax slowly loses all their HP without being able to hurt Halloween to win us the fight. Going through the next couple routes, there's really nothing we can catch, unless you want to count Pawniard as a skeleton on account of their pointy ribcage, but I didn't. Arriving at Sirchester, we evolve Geist into a Lampent and then into a Chandelure, and we can evolve Goblin into a Grimmsnarl, but we accidentally gave them too much drugs and they passed the level cap. And finally, we can evolve Witch into the suspiciously shaped Hatterene. With all that out of the way, we can take on the 6th gym leader, Gordy. They start with a Barbaracle, and we start with Spider, who takes them down with a single energy ball. Shuckle comes in, and our discharge doesn't do a lot of damage before we get hit by a Rock Tomb, so we swap out to Angler on a critical hit Rock Tomb that drops their speed. A couple Scalds takes out Shuckle, and Stonejourner comes in next. The speed drop from Rock Tomb allows Stonejourner to outspeed us and use Wonder Room, swapping their pathetic special defense with their amazing normal defense, allowing them to take a Scald and lose less than half their HP, but they do get burned. Stonejourner is able to set up a Stealth Rocks and land a Body Slam before going down to Scald. All Gordy has left is his Gigantamax Colossal, and it survives a Scald before landing a G-Max Volcolith. Thanks to Colossal's ability, they're faster than us now, and I don't want to risk losing Angler, so we swap out to Witch and let them die to a couple attacks. This lets us bring out Frankenstein for free as Colossal shrinks to normal, and Frankenstein just has to tank a Heat Crash before scoring the KO with a high horsepower to win us the fight. Leaving the gym, we get another Holy Yap Sash, and we have our penultimate battle with Hop. We start with Masky, and Hop Stubwool survives our body press but goes down to the hail present in this fight. Because Masky has the leftovers, they can basically ignore the hail since our healing is the same as the damage we take. Snorlax comes in, and we burn them with a Will-O-Wisp, causing their crunch to not deal much damage. Our body press nearly kills them, and they then land a critical hit crunch that also drops our defense. The burn and hail just fail to KO Snorlax, giving Hop the chance to heal, but they can't make another move before Snorlax goes down to a body press. Rillaboom comes in next, and we swap to Spider, who loses half their HP and their Citrus Berry to a knockoff, but we then use Leech Life to restore quite a bit of HP. We're hit by a Drum Beating, dropping our speed and allowing Rillaboom to outspeed us and land a second one, leaving Spider with just 6 HP before we land a second Leech Life to KO Rillaboom and restore enough HP for us to survive the hail. Corviknight is up next, so we bust out Angler, who beats them with a couple Thunderbolts, and his final Pincurchin goes down to 2 Scalds to win us the fight. Shortly after, we evolve JoJo into the somehow less frightening Mr. Rhyme, and yes, those yellow buttons on its torso are its real eyes, and that's less frightening than this abomination if you ask me. Our second Marnie fight is up next, and she has a room temperature IQ in this fight, because she starts with a Liepard that maxes out its special attack with Nasty Plot, despite having no specially offensive moves. And that lets Goblin set up a few bulk ups before sweeping her team. Her brother, the 7th gym leader Piers, is next, and we'll start with JoJo against his Scrafty. We forgot to drug up our Pokemon to the level cap before entering the fight, so JoJo's Dazzling Gleam doesn't kill Scrafty, and they almost die to a payback. Our Berry heals us, and a second Dazzling Gleam takes them down. Malamar comes in, so we swap to Spider on a Night Slash, then restore all of our missing HP with a one-hit KO Leech Life. His Ace Obstagoon is in next, and we can use Discharge for decent damage while they fail a counter. They block the next Discharge with an Obstruct, and we land one more Discharge before they bring us to around half HP with the Throat Chop. We cease our discharging and try to use Leech Life to KO, but they use Obstruct, blocking the attack and having our defense, so we swap to Goblin, set up a couple bulk ups while we wait for them to waste and obstruct, then take them down with a Spirit Break. All that's left is his Skuntank, and it doesn't stand a chance against our roided up Goblin, and we take them down to win the fight. We'll fight the next gym leader in a double battle, and it's quite a tricky one, so we hit up every Watt Trader on the map looking for a taunt TM to stop Raihan's Gigalith from setting up Stealth Rocks, but we can't find one, so it looks like we'll just have to live with Stealth Rocks. We do find an Earthquake TM though, which is a big find honestly. We evolve Nosferatu into a Noivern, and it's time for us to take on the final gym leader, Raihan. He starts with a Flygon and Gigalith, the latter of which has the Sandstream ability to kick up a Sandstorm, and we bring out Maskey and Angler. Flygon hits Maskey with a Crunch before getting destroyed by an Ice Beam from Angler, and Maskey outspeeds Gigalith to land a Will-O-Wisp to burn them before they set up Stealth Rocks. Sandaconda comes in, and we have Angler take out half of Gigalith's HP with a Scald before being hit below half by an Earth Power from Sandaconda. We can then have Cofagrigus land a Will-O-Wisp on them, and Gigalith misses their Rock Blast. We swap Angler out for Ghost, avoiding an Earth Power from Sandaconda, and Maskey lands a Body Press on Gigalith to take them down. His Gigantamax Duraludon comes in, and we just have to have Ghost outspeed them and use Phantom Force to avoid their Max Rockfall while Maskey burns them, cutting their attack in half. Ghost does not outspeed them and dies. Maskey gets paralyzed by a Glare from Sandaconda, but still pushes through to burn Duraludon. We bring Frankenstein in, baiting a G-Max depletion, and we swap to Goblin, who's immune, but they get hit to half HP by Sandaconda's Earth Power, which also drops their special defense. Maskey once again powers through Paralysis to land a Hex that nearly kills Sandaconda. We swap Goblin out for Nosferatu, who survives a Max Steel Spike and gets paralyzed by Sandaconda's Glare. Maskey does not care for Paralysis and hits a Body Press on Duraludon before Sandaconda succumbs to their burn. Duraludon shrinks back to normal, and we swap Nosferatu out to Angler to tank a Stone Edge, then Maskey takes out Duraludon with a Hex to win the fight. We leave the gym after a victory well earned, and oh no, not you again. After I destroy my finger from the constant A presses, we arrive at Route 10 where we encounter a Vanillish, a Pokemon masquerading as an ice cream cone. I know I had a reason to not consider them for our Mimic slot when I was recording the gameplay, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. We don't catch them or anything on this route. The only notable thing happening on it being Frankenstein somehow managing to miss everything with an Earthquake in a double battle. But we make it to Winden City, where we have our final battle with Marnie. Once again, her Liepard can't do much while we set up bulk ups with Goblin and tear through her team until we get to her newest and final team member, a Grimmsnarl of her own. Hers Gigantamaxes and then gets outsped and destroyed in a single hit. Our final battle with Hop is next, and he just gets dunked on by Maskey. They're able to set up 2 layers of Toxic Spikes, and they barely fail to KO Rillaboom, and are left with just 11 HP after a Max Darkness. So we swap to Goblin, who just has to sit there and watch the poison damage kill Rillaboom to win us the fight. Next up is the Oleana fight, and we send out Geist to take on her Frostloss. They use Double Team, but our Flamethrower still lands for the one-hit KO, and Melodic comes in. So we swap to Halloween as they use Aqua Ring, and we land a Leech Seed and then land a few Seed Bombs to take them down. Salazzle's up next, so we swap to Frankenstein, who's hit by a Poison Gas, and after being brought into the red by a Venoshock, their Citrus Berry heals them, and they land an Earthquake for the one-hit KO. Serena comes in, so we swap to Maskey to burn and Body Press them, losing half their HP in the process, and all she has left is her Gigantamax Garbodor. They hit Maskey with a weak max rockfall, setting up a sandstorm before they're burned by a will-o-wisp. We then switch to Halloween to seed them, then disappear with a Phantom Force while Garbodor takes chip damage from 3 different sources, one of them being their own sandstorm. While they survive the Phantom Force, they go down to Leech Seed damage to win the fight. Our final fight with Beat is next, and Geist can solo his team up to his Hatterene, who's about to Gigantamax. We know they'll go for a Max Mindstorm, so we swap to Goblin, who's immune. This baits out a G-Max Smite, which Geist resists, barely surviving, and they should use a Max Mindstorm again, so it's back to Goblin, and they used G-Max Smite, and Goblin D's nuts is dead. We bring out Spider as they shrink back to normal, and land a critical hit Leech Life to take out half their HP, and they set up a Calm Mind. The second Leech Life brings them low, and they kill Spider with a Mystical Fire, but their HP is now low enough for Geist to KO with Shadow Ball. Our second Nessa fight is next, and we start with Nosferatu against her Golisopod. We land a powerful Air Slash to bring them low and activate their emergency exit ability, and Barraskewda comes in. Expecting a nice Fang, we swap to Mr. Rhyme, but they use Throat Chop, taking out half their HP. A second Throat Chop leaves them with just 2 HP before their Citrus Berry heals them, and they land a Freeze Dry for the one-hit KO. Seaking is up next, so we swap to Maskey on a Mega Horn, which does next to no damage, and they set up an Aqua Ring while we miss our Will-O-Wisp. We then get hit by a Waterfall and miss the second Will-O-Wisp, flinch to another Waterfall, flinch to a third Waterfall, and get hit by one more before we finally burn them after 5 turns of trying. We get our Toxic Spikes up and swap to Angler, who misses the KO with a Thunderbolt, prompting Nessa to heal them with a full restore, erasing the burn, and allowing Seaking to hit Angler below half HP before their Citrus Berry activates, and we take them down with a Thunderbolt. This is the most trouble I have ever had taking on a Seaking, of all Pokemon. Golisopod comes in to land a First Impression before getting zapped. Her Pelipper is able to set up the rain before we take them down with a Thunderbolt as well, and all she has left is her Gigantamax Dreadnought, who gets badly poisoned coming in, and destroys Angler with a Max Darkness before they can move. We bust out Halloween, who can't get the KO with a Seed Bomb, and then gets hit by a critical hit Max Darkness and dies as well. But now Geist can come in and land an Energy Ball to KO Dreadnought to win us the fight. While training for the next fight at the Lake of Outrage, we try to battle this Abomasnow, but run into a Ditto, who we'll catch for our Mimic slot. Our second B fight is up next, and thanks to the existence of Ghost types, it's an automatic win. Her Gigantamax Machamp can pack a punch, but with some clever switching, we can run out the clock and they shrink back to normal, allowing Maskey to pass on their Mummy ability and burn them before beating them with a Hex. Our second Raihan fight is up next, and we start with Frankenstein against his Drought Torkoal. We use Earthquake, just missing the KO, and are hit by a Yawn. We'll be going to sleep the next turn, so we swap to Geist as they heal. Because of the Harsh Sunlight boosting the power of Fire-type moves, we go for a Flamethrower, also bringing Torkoal to the red. We then realize Shadow Ball would still have more effective power against Torkoal and probably would have killed. Because of that, we get hit by a Yawn. We swap back to Frankenstein, who doesn't take much damage from Lava Plume thanks to their Assault Vest, and we land a second Earthquake for the KO. Flygon comes in and uses Sandstorm, allowing us to land a Dragon Claw for the one-hit KO. Turtonator is up next, and they survive an Earthquake before bringing us low with the Dragon Pulse. One more attack KOs them, and Goodra comes in, who we outspeed and land a one-hit KO with Dragon Claw. All that's left is his Gigantamax Duraludon, And we of course swap to Masky, who's able to handle the incoming damage from Max Rockfall like a champ, and is brought to half HP by a G-Max depletion before burning them with a Will-O-Wisp and the Sandstorm fades. Because Raihan is obsessed with the weather, he prioritizes using a Max Rockfall to set up another Sandstorm instead of using a more damaging move, and we use Body Press to bring them close to half HP. Duraludon shrinks back down and gets destroyed by a second Body Press to win us the fight. Our battle with Chairman Ross is next, and Geist outspeeds his entire team, taking out his first 4 Pokemon with a flamethrower each, and for his Gigantamax Copperajah, we use Overheat to score the one-hit KO. Despite having cutscenes turned off, we're still forced to watch this one, and then we fight Eternitus. We bust out Mimic the Ditto, who survives a cross poison before using Transform to become Eternitus. We got poisoned by cross poison, and despite now being a poison type, we're still poisoned, which I just thought that was kinda neat. Anyways, Mimic outspeeds Eternitus, and lands a Dynamax Cannon for the one-hit KO. The raid battle portion of the fight is next, and we try to get Mimic to transform into Zacian, but Eternitus kills Mimic with a Max Whirlwind despite Zamazenta setting up a light screen. We bring out Masky next, and just needs to survive long enough for Zacian and Zamazenta to take out Eternitus for us, while Hop sits in his corner being nearly useless. Masky is able to burn Eternitus and land a couple hexes before we need to swap them out for Alien, and we get to the point where Eternitus is almost dead, and we just need Zacian to use any attacking moves to win the fight. So what do? They use Howl, allowing Alien to get killed by a Max Flare. Surely, with Eternitus at 1 HP, Zacian won't do that again, right? They do it again, and Zamazenta decides to set up a light screen. I am almost positive we're going to lose Geist here, but luckily Eternitus attacks Hop Snorlax, allowing Geist to land a Shadow Ball for the KO. All that's left is for us to take on the champion with our remaining team of Geist the Chandelure, Frankenstein the Dracozolt, Jojo the Mr. Rhyme, Masky the Cofagrigus, and Nosferatu the Noivern. So let's get into it. Leon starts with his Aegislash against Geist, and we of course outspeed them and take them out with a single flamethrower, even with them being in their shield form. Haxorus is out next, and we swap to Nosferatu as they use Earthquake, avoiding the attack. We then outspeed them and land a Dragon Pulse for the one-hit KO. Mr. Rhyme comes in and survives a flamethrower before killing Nosferatu with a freeze dry. Leon then tells us aiming for super effective hits is a surefire way to win, completely ignoring I just hit him with 3 back-to-back super effective hits. Geist is brought back out, finishing the job with a flamethrower, and Dragapult comes in. They hit us hard with a Shadow Ball, but because we have an Assault Vest on, we survive handily and take out Dragapult with a Shadow Ball of our own. Leon's Inteleon comes in next, and a Snipe Shot kills Geist. Frankenstein comes in, losing some attack to a Tearful Look before missing a Bolt Beak, and we're hit by a second one, allowing Inteleon to survive a Bolt Beak, and Leon heals. Our next attack brings them into the red, and Inteleon lands a Snipe Shot before going down to one more Bolt Beak. All Leon has left is his Gigantamax Charizard. He goes for a Max Rockfall, which we survive, and land a Bolt Beak for quite a good bit of damage despite our attack being cut in half. Frankenstein doesn't survive the second Max Rockfall, and we bring out Jojo next. Instead of using G-Max Wildfire like a smart person, Leon uses Max Rockfall for some reason, which Jojo survives and lands a Psychic. Charizard shrinks back down and then outspeeds Jojo to kill them with a Fire Blast. All we have left is Masky. They're hit hard by a Fire Blast, being left with just 12 HP, and they retaliate with a Hex to take out Charizard to win us the fight and the run. Except that wasn't supposed to happen. You may have noticed we had 6 Pokemon for this fight. We caught a secret 6th Pokemon, and I was expecting to lose my first 5 Pokemon before revealing them to win us the fight. But who could it be? Looking at the list, all that's left is the werewolf, the demon, the skeleton, and the goth girl slots. It's actually a Pokemon you saw mere minutes ago. Introducing our skeleton, Bone Daddy the Eternitus. I've been Hextasy, and thanks for watching me spam Will-O-Wisp like a weenie for half an hour. We can set up a couple of growths against Gossifleur, and when his Dynamax Elder... Yeah, that thing.